Speaking of getting in the way, should we talk about the Raw Tag Team Championship between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders? This is the bone of contention that everybody wanted me to see and talk about. Have I gone far enough into this now that you could put this on YouTube and I can start using cuss words?
Well, we will find out.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fuck this whole fucking thing. I don't know what to say. I don't know what I was watching. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why it was aired. I have no words to describe it. I don't know why that everybody involved in it didn't immediately tender their resignation and walk the fuck out. You know what? Because the Street Profit, and I used to like the Viking Raiders, not the fucking gimmick. But the goddamn guys, fuck them too. If I ever see them again, I'll tell them in person, fuck you for being involved in this. I have never needed a goddamn job. I've never needed money so bad. I've never had so lack of self-respect or respect for my profession that I would have not walked. I've walked out on a lot less than this. And I think they ought to be ashamed of themselves. I think whoever pitched this idea should not only be fired, but potentially beaten up in an alleyway somewhere by fucking street thugs that are hired at a later date. If anybody had suggested that this was a good idea for me to do in a promotion that I ran, I would not only have fired them, I would physically attack them. I don't know. If it was my company and I had a choice of airing this or airing nothing, I would air Mighty Mouse reruns. It's got to the point now where when they can make AEW look like the more fucking reputable organization with all of the WWE's resources and the talent that they have on the roster and the talent that they have in the production studio and the talent that they have, or just the high price talent that they have, that they would allow something like this on their program shows that nobody that knows what the fuck they're doing is either in charge or can stand up to Vince or has the backbone or the balls or the guts or the scruples to fucking walk out over goddamn principles. And I hate everybody involved in this, and I never want to see any of them again personally or professionally. Why would you even do so? It wasn't even funny fake. It wasn't even entertaining fake. It was silly fake and stupid fake. And they all ought to be ashamed of themselves. And as a matter of fact, if I'd have been Randy Orton and Edge, I would have gone up to all these guys, and including the agents, including the creative team, and I'd have slapped them all in the fucking face. Because they pissed all over Randy Orton and Edge. After I watched most of this match, after I started fast forwarding to see when it would end, and finally when I did fucking fast forward to the one point they were in a dumpster, and that was so fucking fitting, I said, if that ain't the finish it ought to be, you ought to put garbage in a dumpster and close the fucking lid. I got out of it there. I had to stop watching the show. I wanted to see Randy Orton and Edge. I wanted to see how they lived up to their billing, and or just as I've always liked Edge. Orton's a fucking premier worker. That was something I was looking forward to watching. And after this fucking thing, I turned the goddamn thing off and I had to go away from it and walked around for about an hour and did other things. And the only reason I came back to it and watched Orton and Edge was because, well, two reasons. Number one, I didn't want to waste that much time on the rest of this fucking stinker just to not see the only good thing on it. And secondly, I knew people were going to be waiting for it, and I wanted to be able to at least say something positive about somebody. But if it hadn't been my profession and what I'm supposed to be doing for the program, I would have never come back to this fucking show or watched any of the rest of it again after this fucking horse shit. Fuck you, Street Profits, whoever the fuck you are. I've never met you. Fuck you, Viking Raiders. I know you took the shitty gimmick because you got a job. But doing this, fuck you, drive a fucking truck, motherfuckers. If Bruce Pritchard had anything to do with this, I hope Paul Bosch reanimates from the grave and sodomizes him, just fucks him until his soul leaves his fucking body. Fuck you, Bruce. Anybody else? Can you think of anybody else that we can directly implicate in this before I talk anything about the details?
Vince McMahon.
Well, Vince McMahon is obviously, we now have proof that he's insane, has lost his mind, and is senile, and is babbling and fucking spilling his goddamn oatmeal all over his fucking lap. The Vince McMahon I knew would have never let a bunch of, all the things that he even did in the 80s and 90s, something as amateurish and stupid and silly as this. They start out fighting in a parking lot, but then because they break Braun Strowman's windshield, they all four run off scared. The tag team champions and their challengers, all four of them are scared of one guy. So already I knew the guys were jabronis in the thing to begin with. Then they're fighting in the back of the arena with marching music. Then they have a face-off with golf clubs and axes and a bowling ball. I'm not kidding. But then they decide they shouldn't use those things. So they talk it over, put them all down, and then start fighting again. Here's how stupid they all are. They were laying shit in, trying to make their work look good while they were being obviously phony on purpose. I guarantee you, I've complained a few times to my boys, but never to the opposite side, really. But I never complained about guys laying shit in to make shit look good if they weren't reckless. But I would complain long and loud of a motherfucker laying something in to make it look good while we were doing something that was so obviously phony we could never make anybody believe it was real to begin with. Then, I don't care whether your work looks like the shits. Don't fucking hit me hard trying to convince people when we're doing something they can't be convinced over. That's fucking stupid. Then they were eating turkey legs. Then they got knocked through a glass door. A Viking flashed back to a game of bowling, and we could see the fucking flashbacks in the guy's mind. And then he threw the bowling ball into the Street Profits' nuts. Here's what I wrote verbatim. I hate all four of these guys. I hate whoever told them to do this. I hate the idea of this.
I'm not sure if it was a flashback or a dream sequence.
Whatever it was. They should have sent out the fucking LSD so that we'd all be on the same page. Then we might not have minded it. Ninjas on motorcycles showed up. What was the meaning of the ninjas on the motorcycles? Has something been done with a team of ninjas on a motorcycles that this is referring to, or they just showed up and interrupted the fucking fight?
I believe this may have been the debut of the ninjas on motorcycles. I don't know anything about it.
And I wrote, well, the WWE is now the biggest garbage wrestling promotion in the world. It's made football field fuckery look like Thez versus Rogers. So then the Vikings and the Prophets join up to fight the motorcycle ninjas. And they go through a quick series of clips of goofy spots, so I started fast-forwarding to see when it would fucking end. I stopped. They were fighting again. When I left, they were joined up, teamed, fighting the motorcycle ninjas. But then they were fighting each other again. And then I fast forwarded some more, and then they knocked each other off a goddamn fucking semi-trailer truck. And I fast forwarded a little bit more, and they were all laying in the dumpster. And that's where I just turned the show off and walked away from it. And the virus, as I said before, and you can go back, a month or so ago, I said the virus is going to be what kills wrestling. Because now that they've been forced to try to be creative, they're doing this shit and they're getting a tickle out of it and they like it, so they're going to do more of it. And it's going to get worse and worse. I don't know how it can be worse than this. I could actually smell my computer monitor from watching this on the network. But the virus has killed wrestling. They're either going to computer generate the shit, or they're going to do more movies or cinematic approaches. I'd like to give you a cinematic approach of a fucking John Holmes movie and splooge right in your fucking eye, Kevin Dunn and all the rest of you. this is what they're going to be doing. And and by a year of this, and nobody will ever want to watch anything that's called wrestling ever again.
I'd like to say a positive comment. Like you, I hated the Stadium Stampede match with AEW. I thought it was an embarrassment. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was bad comedy put together that was acceptable by the dwindling wrestling audience, but by and large, people who like professional wrestling or comedy would realize how stupid it was. But if I could say a positive about that match, at least Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon weren't involved in it. Because now you're seeing, I've said how AEW is those guys, their version of WWE wrestling. It's not sports-based wrestling. It's not a modern take on Mid-South wrestling. It's not a modern take on Nitro. At this point, it is their version of WWE wrestling. And this was WWE's version of the AEW cinematic match.
Oh,
by the way, there's a way to do it. I mean, that's the thing. The next match on the show was a cinematic match. It was a match with various elements from crowd noise to Howard Finkel being reanimated to cuts in the match, like there were elements of the match that were put together in post-production. That's a way you could do it where at least it's not insulting. But this shit, I don't know what this was. I mean, you missed another dream sequence. You missed so much.
Yeah, I would have missed wrestling for the rest of my life if I'd have seen any more of this. I was disgusted by the whole thing. I was repulsed by it.
I understand being really mad at the production team and whoever was the agent and whoever came up with it and the head of creative and Vince McMahon. These four guys in the match are four guys with their first real chance to make some money.
I don't give a fuck them. Fuck them. Have some fucking balls, some fucking principles. Go out and make a goddamn idiot out of yourself on national TV and shit all over the wrestling business. Fuck them. I've walked out for less. And adjusting my fucking WCW contract for inflation, probably on around the same amount of money. I don't give a fuck. Fuck everybody had anything to do with this. Fuck anybody that liked it. I'll slap you. How about that? Fucking tell me, man, woman, or child, 8 to 80, blind, crippled, or crazy. If you can't walk, I'll drag you. You tell me you like this, I want to slap the fuck out of you.
This was bad. This was pretty bad.
And I was so upset when I finally sat down and then watched the worthwhile match on this fiasco. I was more insulted and offended and upset for Randy Orton and Edge. And now we find out Edge tore his fucking tricep. He's going to be out for a while. They go out there and fucking put on a clinic, have the closest thing you can have to a masterpiece in this day and age in wrestling. Fucking work their asses off, and Edge gets hurt and is going to have surgery. And it was all for naught because nobody could take a goddamn bit of it seriously because they had just seen the whole business mocked and made a joke of by a bunch of fucking underneath twats that shouldn't be in a fucking ring. And they weren't in a ring.